Hi, I'm Tom Stokes. I'm here with the Oley Valley Heritage. The date is July 26th?
27th.
27th. I'd say the 27th. And we're doing an Oley Heritage interview. Hilda May, could you introduce yourself?
I'm Hilda Bower-Shurr, Hilda May Bower, originally from Oley.
And I'm Hilda's daughter, Lisa Stanley, from Douglasville now, living in Boyertown.
Great. Well, thank you. Hilda, could you talk about your family and growing up on Main Street, your house, where it was located, and
Well, it was built where it's originally located now, and it was great. I was the closest one to the school, and often the latest one going.
And what was the comment from the principal mom?
In
I
12th
see you.
In 12th grade, Mr. Wessner, he'd say, "I see you coming across the field, and we're reading the Bible, and you're not here yet."
so you were like,
Well, anyway.
they read the Bible at the beginning of school?
Oh, we always did.
Okay.
You had a salute to the flag,
Mm-hmm.
read the Bible. I wasn't often there in the senior year, but anyway. That's what we did ever since first grade. But I was sickly. I was a sick kid in first, second, and third grade. I missed so much school because I ended up with a mastoid operation, which was very dangerous back then. I was in the Reading Hospital for 2 weeks. It was before they had penicillin.
Ooh.
They got penicillin the next year. And anyway, then I had my tonsils out in fourth grade, and after that I was pretty healthy.
Yeah.
But my grandfather taught 4th, 5th, and 6th grade.
What was his name?
Charles Bower. So I had him for a teacher. He taught history and geography. And Miss Dalton taught 4th, 5th, and 6th grade. She lived next door to my grandparents. So, and a lot of teachers boarded at my grandparents' place. The teachers didn't have cars back then. They got room and board there. A lot of them didn't even go home weekends. And they could all walk to school, which my grandfather did. I think he was the oldest living teacher at the time he died.
Wow.
What year did you start school?
I was born in 31. Well, 36, I guess, 37, I guess.
Yeah. Did you have kindergarten back then, Mom?
No.
It was just first grade.
Although, 2 of the people in my class went to kindergarten, and they had that, they're in Oley somewhere, I'm not sure, but if my parents knew about it, they didn't send me. I have no idea, but it was there in Oley somewhere. Peggy Ann Van Doren went there, and Alvin Dondor went there. I think they were the only 2.
Just like a kindergarten? Or?
And I think it was down somewhere, the building that was across from the DeTurk house that's there now. The old DeTurk house.
Yeah.
It was on that farm or somewhere near there.
On that. Huh. Interesting.
So they did have a kindergarten, which I never found out till later. But,
who were some of your friends and classmates, and what, do you have any memories you want to talk
well,
about?
Darlene Miller was one of them. And Gloria Frankhauser. She still lives in Oley.
Okay.
And
Uh,
still talks to Mom
I-
every day.
I talk to her
Gloria.
just about every day. Mm-hmm.
Excellent. Yeah.
She was Gloria Deal at that time. She lived over not too far from Lendaki's Dam.
Mm-hmm.
We used to go over there ice skating in the winter time. And they cut ice and they kept it in the building there. Next to the dam. Do either of you remember that?
Yeah,
What about-
we know about ice houses, yeah.
Yeah, there was an ice house there.
Did you ever make ice cream or anything with the ice, or buy
No.
any of the ice?
No, not from there. They kept it there.
But Poppy made ice cream in the winter with
oh,
snow,
yeah.
right?
Oh, with snow, yes.
Ooh, that sounds good.
That none of it do. She'd
Okay.
go out and take the top off the snow
Mm-hmm.
and put a little sugar in there and vanilla
Mm.
and a little bit of cream. And we'd have snow ice cream. But he also made real ice cream in an ice cream maker in the wintertime. But we always had a big vegetable garden, and so did my grandparents. We raised just about, anything and everything. Everybody in Oley did. Everybody had big gardens, and they all had outhouses. I mean, we kept it to use in an emergency. Other than that, my dad kept tools in there. But my grandparents used it, you could use that outhouse. But everybody in Oley washed and hung their wash out on a Monday.
Monday was wash day.
Monday was wash day, absolutely.
And then Tuesday was ironing.
Tuesday was ironing. Hmm. Yeah, they worked hard, but I don't know, there's something about it
Mm-hmm.
kind of better.
And the boarding house, Mom, that your grandmother operated, she would make pies
Oh my God.
every day. Those teachers really ate well.
The teachers, they had a wonderful time there, let me tell you. They could use the kitchen if they wanted to, but she fed them well. And yes, there were always pies for dessert, pies for breakfast if they wanted it. Yeah, sometimes there was as many one time as 6 teachers living there.
In the boarding house.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. All at the high school or at the
No, at my grandparents' place.
It was
Okay.
actually just their home.
It was just their.
It
Oh,
was
okay.
just
they
like
sold
they-
it. Yeah.
There
It's
was,
just that they operated it kind of as a
Yeah.
boarding house, but
Yeah.
I guess it formally wasn't called a boarding house.
Just once in a while, there was usually at least 3 teachers living there. So my grandfather would kind of have a hard time getting into the bathroom.
One bathroom.
That used to be a struggle sometimes. Every once in a while, the one teacher said he used to get on the warpath because there'd be all kinds of stockings and all kinds of things hanging in the bathroom. He couldn't even find the bathtub. So,
That's
anyway,
funny.
but
Yeah, we're kind of spoiled now, aren't we? So,
aren't we though? Isn't that the truth? We're really spoiled. No, when I think about that. But and my grandmother sewed. The Daltons were always bringing something over to sew, and the Hunter Clauser girls, they were bringing things over for her to sew. And she sewed for everybody in the neighborhood, me included. But
Now, your mother's family was from Boyertown,
yes,
and
she was related to the Funks, the Funk fruit orchard.
the orchard.
Yes, that was my grandfather that had that. My great-grandfather had the orchard to begin with, and my grandfather took it over. And then my uncle took it over to end up. Uncle
And that was Sheldon Funk.
Yeah.
And he would have been the last
He was the
to
last
operate
one.
that.
I guess the packing house is still there.
Mhm.
He had the packing house. Yeah.
And your mother was in the opera fire, correct? The Rose?
Yes, she was. She was 11 years old. The whole family was there. My Uncle Sheldon and my Aunt Hilda and my mother. But fortunately, they had a teacher that showed them the way to the fire escape. All the rest, if they went to the door, the doors opened in and they couldn't get out. Yeah, that was.
Yeah, it was tragedy.
But and they took all the clothing. My mother said there was a big pile of clothing up on the cemetery, and she found her coat later on. And I know my mother collected antique buttons, but I have one tray of buttons, and she still has some of the buttons that she took off the coat. But my father went to Kutztown it was Kutztown Normal School then. My mother went to Westchester Normal School. But my mother taught in Boyertown, and then my father taught different places before he helped with the printing, before he became a printer. And he was also principal down at the Boyertown School where she happened to be teaching, and that's where they met.
Okay.
And then he was drafted into the service. But the war was just about over, the First World War. He was a cook. So when he came home, they stayed at my grandparents' place there in Oley. They got married and stayed there till the house that's next to Miss Lee's place.
Mm-hmm. And
Till that was finished being built.
so that was built right after World War I,
Mm-hmm.
and it still stands there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That was next to Miss Lee's place where Kevin Beaver lives now.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to talk a little bit about Miss Lee?
Well, she was a good neighbor. She had huge gardens, and she and my dad would garden together. And she didn't waste a thing. She took care of her parents till they died. I think she could have gotten married, but she took care of her parents instead. And
She would write little notes on every possible piece of.
she
She used every piece of paper like an envelope, a used envelope,
really?
She
Yeah.
never wasted
like extremely
never wasted a piece
resourceful.
of paper.
For her.
I know my mother kept a diary. I still have all the diaries. So if you ever want to know the weather on a certain day over in Oley,
It can be verified.
Wow, cool.
I can tell you, and I can tell you mostly what happened that day. If there was any world news, she'd have that in there too.
Mhm. And
But-
local news too in her
Oh,
diary?
yeah.
Oh, that
Oh,
sounds
Local
amazing.
news and those diaries are something else.
Oh, yeah, I'd love to see them.
I look into them all the time to see
Oh,
what.
that's fun,
Huh.
yeah.
But every once in a while, she'd have a piece of paper there that Miss Lee left there. She said Mrs. Kime died, early this morning. She'd leave a note at my mother's, where the milkman would leave milk. She'd leave a note there at the door if my mother wasn't up yet. But, and Neoma Kime lived next to Miss Lee.
Oh, okay, so that's Mrs. Kime that you were referring
And
to.
she was a teacher on the school board for many years.
Mm-hmm.
And I think her one daughter still owns one of the houses uptown.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that makes, I think
But
we,
I don't know who lives in her
Mhm.
house at the moment. But then there was a store across the street. That was very handy.
okay.
And of course, all the kids from the school, when I was going to school, all the fellas would come down there and have lunch, or they'd get some, maybe cigarettes or who knows.
Mm-hmm.
But they'd always be coming down through my dad's garden and past the pig pen. We had a pig pen.
Okay.
The pigs were always getting out, and
Keeps everybody excited in
and
town.
the Clousers would, the Clouser boys would go chasing after the pigs. They'd get them. But when I was going to school, Stockings had that store. Sheridan's had it, I think, to begin with. I can remember Sheridan's having that store. Then Stockings had it. Jimmy Stocking went to school. My dad said there were brickworks that used to be behind that store.
Okay.
He told me that, and I think I saw that in
Probably in the Main Street
I
book.
think, yes, it is.
Cool.
And then after Stockings had it, I'm trying to think who had it next. Leon Burt, no. I can't think of her name. Our kids went to school. Anyway, I can't remember. I was out of school by that
I
time.
remember a lot more names than I do.
Oh,
Well, speaking of stores,
who had it next?
I know did your uncle Eli Bower, did he have a store
He had a store uptown,
uptown?
right at
Water Street?
Water Street. Across from the intersection there. At
Same
Water
kind of
Street.
store?
Yes, it was generally. He had a potbelly stove in there, and I can remember all kinds of pretty cases that you'd lift up the lid and all kinds of things. I used to get up there once in a while. I have lots of pictures from,
Mm-hmm.
This is my grandfather's brother, Eli. Yeah. My dad would go up to the post office every day. We had box 28, which is over at Emily's restaurant now. Emily's restaurant over there on Route 10. Is that Route 10?
Yeah, right.
Emily's, yeah. And I have part of it out here in the kitchen.
Oh, your old
My,
Part of the post office fixtures.
yeah, when they had sale, I told you my mother collected antique buttons.
Mm-hmm.
And so he bought that for her to put some buttons in the drawers. Well, I have it full of all kinds of Oley stuff now.
Oh, cool.
But anyway, he bought that. Like I said, the rest of it, and our box 28 is over at Emily's. They have I think it was up at the Glockenspiel. The Glockenspiel had
Restaurant.
they had part of the post office things up there for a while. And when that burned down or they sold it, I don't know, somehow.
Lost it, yeah. Oh, that's now you got it from them or?
I didn't, no, my dad bought
Emily's
it
got it
from
from
the
Emily's,
post
okay,
office
Yeah.
when they sold the things. I'm trying to think of the postmaster's name. I can't think of him at the time. I'll think of it later today.
Sure. No worries. Yeah.
But, no, the people that own Emily's bought the remaining, what was left of the post office stuff. They took it over to their restaurant. I don't know if they had anything to do with it. Maybe they owned part of the Glockenspiel.
That's what I was wondering.
They might have,
Mhm.
but that's where that ended up. My mother's pictures in Boyertown on the side of the theater.
State Theater.
The State Theater, where they painted a picture. I have it
A
on.
mural.
Mural.
Yeah, wow.
Oh,
mural.
she's in it. Oh, cool.
And
That's
she's the one holding the little dog.
Oh, great.
So I think it's still painted there. I think
It
they
is.
added some more things to it as and I guess the theater is open once in a while for different
Yeah, they
things.
kept it going, or tried to.
Yeah. My dad took a lot of the pictures in Oley. He took like confirmation pictures and catechetical class pictures. Lots of pictures.
Was that during the same time he was a printer or a teacher? Or
He was a printer.
a printer.
Yeah, well, after they got married, my grandfather decided he would rather just teach.
Mm-hmm.
And so my dad took over the printing.
And Poppy never returned to teaching then.
No, he taught up at Oley, he taught up at Price, up way up.
Yeah.
And then he taught in Cape May for a year. He taught different places till he ended up in Boyertown. But then, like I said, my grandfather was just as happy to let him.
Teach, yeah.
Yeah.
What-
Took over the printing.
So, do you know when your grandfather started the printing business, or the?
Oh, there's a picture in George Miser's book.
Mm-hmm.
My grandparents lived in the house next to Neil McKim's place.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where they were doing printing then already.
In the basement.
Yeah. And then I always thought my dad grew up in the house that's there now next to the print shop, but he didn't. He grew up in the house next to Neil McKim's, which I didn't realize for years. I don't know, wasn't. But then they tore down the log cabin that was there,
Mm-hmm.
where my grandparents' house is now. They tore that down, and they built the house there. My grandparents built the house there. While he would have been going to college then. He would have been going up to the Kutztown at that time. So he never really lived in that house except when my mother and my dad got married. They stayed there until their house was finished.
With their grandparents, or with your grandparents?
Yeah, with my grandparents. Mm-hmm.
And the print shop next to what ultimately was their home, that came sometime later than after Poppy was in college?
No. Honestly, I am not sure. No, that building was there when.
So that preceded, like, the replacement home.
No, honestly.
The home that
I
replaced
I don't
the-
know. I can't tell you at the moment. George Miser would know. George Miser would know. Because he spent a lot of time talking to my parents and everything. He was often there.
Mm.
And he made a lot of pictures for my dad. Made better pictures of the pictures that my dad had.
Uh-huh,
Right.
sure.
Put it that way.
Now, your dad had a dark room too, did his own developing?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We weren't allowed to go in the bathroom.
It was the
No.
bathroom.
Oh,
It is the
It was the bathroom. Oh my gosh, yeah. Yeah. I can remember that because we only had one bathroom. Of course, we had the outside toilet if you, in
In
an emergency,
yeah.
if you could get by with the garden tools and things, but, oh. Now, in my grandparents' toilet, what was it? There was always a picture of Jesus
Oh, in the bathroom.
on the door. Yes, and there was always a Sears Roebuck catalog
Mhm.
laying there that you could use for the paper. I very seldom ever used it, but when you're a kid, you know. But no, and their bathroom was kept pretty nicely, just, you know, and, well, maybe with all the teachers there at the house, maybe occasionally it was used, I don't
Yeah.
know. But there was a big barn there too, and everybody had chickens. You know, we had chickens even when I was, not I can remember anything, but I know there were chickens up in the garage, up in the top of the loft. We had chickens.
Did you have to collect the eggs or butcher the
No,
chickens or anything?
but I remember down at Boyer-Shurr, they had chickens too. My grandfather's house in Boyer-Shurr was right up against the casket factory. His garden touched the casket factory at that time. And they had a big barn there. I guess some of it's still there. The stone house next to it where Jaffolas lived, that's still there. But they tore down my grandparents' place, and that's where
Walnut Woods.
Walnut
Woods.
Woods is now.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm. I have pictures of it, but yeah, that was a big double house, and we always went to Boyer-Shurr on a Sunday. We always, you know, families got together on Sundays then. We always went down there on a Sunday. I can remember going down there growing up until I had a boyfriend or something and wanted to stay home, you know, or until I met, I don't know, until I was older.
Mm.
And there were things at school and things, but everybody got together on a Sunday. We had big Sunday dinners.
And Mom still does that to this
Really?
day.
Do you host
For
this
us.
Sunday?
Yes, she does.
Wow. Good for
I
you.
did it for
Very
years.
good cook.
So
Yeah.
he used to come here for dinner sometimes.
Really?
We used to go see Miss Lee when she moved to Palm. But she was a good neighbor. She used to babysit me, sort of, when my parents...
Keep an eye on.
She'd keep an eye on me. I mean, I was old enough to be alone, but she'd come over and check in on me every once in a while, see that I was behaving myself. But...
There was the wine incident, Mom. What kind of wine was that again? We were trying to find that online.
My parents had sort of a back porch that the refrigerator was there. You had, in the winter time, it was cold to go out to the refrigerator, but that back porch was kind of cool. So they kept things out there, and there was always a bottle of Virginia Dare wine there. And I guess it intrigued me because there was a picture of a pretty girl there with long blonde hair. And nobody ever said I couldn't drink it. Nobody drank.
Just out
My
there.
parents didn't really drink wine except when they had company. They were always playing cards. Playing cards was the thing back then.
Toss and pepper.
I mean, oh my gosh, they were always playing cards. Everywhere. Card parties at bingo, up at the fire company hall. Everybody always played cards, but anyway, it must have been one time when they were busy playing cards or something, and anyway, or my mother would be up helping my dad at the print shop. She was always doing that too. And anyway, I was home alone, and I got a little glass, and I had some Virginia Dare in there. And I remember Miss Lee came over, oh, she said, what are you drinking? And I told her, I said, Mother said I could have it, or my parents, they said I could have some. And she didn't make any comment. She never said, you shouldn't be doing that or anything. She just left it go at that. And I'm sure my mother heard about it, I'm sure, from Miss Lee, but nobody ever said anything
really?
more
Wow.
about it to me. I think they thought if they made too much of an issue of it,
You try it again. Yeah,
because I didn't like it to begin with.
sure, yeah.
But anyway,
So Miss Lee was a pretty talented needle.
That was
Stitch.
her mother.
Or her mother. Okay,
Oh,
yeah, her
she
mother
was
the-
very
yeah.
good at sewing too.
Okay, Miss Lee. Okay.
She was very good at sewing. She used to do laundry for people. I know for one of the teachers that lived up there where the Stribbelbank was, the beauty shop
Mhm.
across from the hotel. My father named that place. He told Verna Snyder he should call it the Stribbelbank. So she did.
What does that really mean?
What did it mean?
A strub.
Strublik is like
Strublik.
hair
Messy
is kinda
hair.
messy.
Yeah. My
Okay.
hair now.
So-
Strublik.
The
Strublik.
thought is you go there to correct that, or you go there to look
Yeah.
that way.
You go there to correct it.
Okay.
But anyway, I don't know what I was saying. What was I telling you?
Oh, Miss Lee and the needlepoint and someone.
One
doing-
of the teachers boarded there at Verna's place for a while. And they would send their laundry down to Miss Lee. And she would iron these beautiful white shirts. They said they never had their laundry done like that.
Mhm.
And believe me, I don't know, she would starch, had, you know,
And she made her own lye soap, right?
oh, she made soap. I used to see her stirring that soap out there in a big kettle in her out kitchen. Yeah,
So she was pretty old-fashioned at the time.
oh yeah. She was very frugal. I mean, she didn't waste anything, but she had a fish pond by her deck and flowers. She always had lots of flowers, and I loved flowers, so I don't know, I'd always be over at her place watching her do things. And that tall clock there,
Mm-hmm.
that came from her.
Mm.
Oh, she didn't have to get up on any stool to wind it. And
Oh,
that-
was she tall?
she was tall. She could just wind that. That was at her house.
Now, had she grown up in the house on Main Street where she lived, or do you know?
Oh, her parents were there.
So probably.
I should know. I should
Oh,
know
I
these
can always
things, but
look
I
at
don't
it.
remember.
Probably says in that
If I
Main Street
did, I
book.
don't remember.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, she took care of her mother,
Mm-hmm.
and I would go in. I don't remember seeing her mother too much. I remember seeing Mrs. Kime. I'd go over there sometimes, because Neoma always had a lot of pussycats over there, and I'd
Uh-huh.
go over there to see the cats. And I remember Mrs. Kime said that she was to give me a little apy cake. They were making apy cakes, and she gave me a little apy cake one time. I just remember that. I remember her mother. She was in the bed in the front room.
Mrs. Kime's mother.
Hmm.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Oh, and Neil McKime's father had the barber shop there. So
Oh,
there
okay.
was always people going in and
Coming
out
in.
there. They had the barber shop. I don't know if you probably don't remember any of that. Do you remember Neil McKime? No. Hmm. She
No,
had
I
a-
grew up in Amity Township. I
Oh, okay.
didn't
That's
grow up
right,
in
you
Oley.
did.
Yeah.
That's right. Well, Neoma could do anything. I mean, one night, she'd always bring eggs over from my mother. She had chickens and a garden. She worked like a man. I mean, she was strong as a man. And she came over there one time, and she must have been at a school board meeting, and they called her. They said one of her cows was in labor. And so she left there. She went and she delivered the calf. She took care of that, and she went back to the meeting. I mean, that's the kind of person she was. She'd paint the barn. She'd do anything.
No, she wasn't married, or. no
Well, she
children?
got married later on,
Oh, okay.
and he was a teacher. He was German. And then, of course, the war came along, and they'd always say, you know, people didn't have any, respect too much for the Germans. They used to say washers would have, you know,
Yeah.
they would have things painted on their roof or something. Yeah, that's the kind of dumb stuff.
Yeah,
that
local
people,
gossip kind of.
Yeah, that's the kind of stuff that went around.
Oh, it still happens, yeah.
Yeah,
This
and
is
that-
World War II, correct?
Yes, and that went around for that. Then I was, yeah.
Now, were you involved in the print shop much?
Oh, I used to go up there, and I'd help staple, and if he had big programs like for the fair just started when I was in high school.
Mm-hmm.
There were 2 years of the fair, and that was in the school building at that time.
Right.
We went, and they had tents outside in the back. Well, the tents were always blowing down. There'd always be a
Storm.
I think both years that they had it outside, there was a hurricane or something came by. I just remember,
I remember a lot of cold years in tents there,
yeah,
where it seemed like it was a lot colder then than it is now.
I know.
It was
But
same third weekend of September, but the weather was a lot
Interesting.
colder. Yeah. I mean, it wasn't unusual to have killing frost before the fair.
oh, I know. They always said September 15th. You could count on frost from September 15th on.
Not anymore.
No. But
I know the
So-
Browns tent, we had heaters to keep the tent warm.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Well, when the fair came along, we didn't have school. That was one nice thing. Although we had a hockey game or something. They did play that. But we had to clear out all the rooms. We helped. All the kids helped.
Mhm.
Put the desks together and
Yeah.
we had the...
So you printed up the program for the Oley Fair. That
Yes,
was a
he
big job,
did.
I'm
Like
sure.
I said, I would often go up and help staple upstairs,
Yeah.
staple things and fold. I can remember he'd bring some things down to the house and we'd be down there folding on a card table. Because they were printed on that big press, well, then it had to be folded a certain way. And then he cut it. I remember there was a big paper cutter up there. I'm sure it's still there. That thing, I mean, it was a big cutter.
Yeah.
Sort of like a guillotine, eh?
Uh-huh. But we loved that as we were kids. We would always have paper scraps to play with. My cousins would come or anybody would come to the house. They'd all want to go up to the print shop. We'd all want to go up there and get paper and...
Nobody cut off the thumb.
No, no, it's a wonder. I never did the cutting, but the scraps would be there in a thing, and we'd pick through the scraps, and we always had, there was always plenty of paper. I don't know how comes Miss Lee never got any.
I know, I was just
Yeah, I was
thinking
thinking
that.
that.
Like there she
Yeah.
is using
Well-
every little envelope.
Yeah, she
She was so used to doing that it wouldn't have, no.
Now, you'd mentioned hockey. Were you involved in athletics at the school?
I was the goalie.
Oh, wow.
I
It's
remember
a
that.
great position.
Oh, I don't know. And I played basketball, but I was small. I'm really small now, but I was a little taller then. But, I did because I lived in town. And, a lot of the kids couldn't help because they didn't have any way to get there.
Mm-hmm.
Just like Darlene.
Yeah, stuck on the farm.
Nobody would have brought her to,
No time or
No.
yeah, no way to get.
No, Gloria Frankhauser lived over, and somehow she got there. And Peggy Ann.
Yeah.
They had maybe their parents or something. My dad was often the one that would be picking up the kids because he was printer, and so he had, if anybody needed something, he could stop doing what he was doing.
Yeah.
It wasn't like some,
Yeah.
It's not
And
like
so
milking the cows. Got
he
to get
was
done.
always driving us around,
Yeah.
always taking us,
Now, how'd the hockey team do? Is they Were they as good as they are right
Oh,
now?
no,
No.
oh my gosh, no, that was nothing special then. And of course, we never played football. They still don't play football. It was soccer.
All right.
And all I remember about that was that Jimmy Deisher, that was Mr. Deisher's, James Deisher was the president. He was the president of the Oley Bank, I think, but this was his son, Jim. He was really seriously hurt.
Oh, during a game.
Yeah,
Hmm.
a soccer game. Oh, he was critical for a while.
They have to take him away in the ambulance.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure they did because I know he was critical for a
Yeah, you
quite
don't
a
think
while.
of soccer as a contact kind of sport.
Yeah. But, yeah, the sports were kind of,
So.
baseball, yeah. I don't know. Basketball was, I'd say, the biggest thing. I used to go to all the basketball games because I was close there and I could just run up to school.
Mm-hmm.
But, I don't know, we didn't watch much basketball. We were just looking for some
Talking.
boys.
Sitting there and talking.
That's
That's
fun.
what you did. So anyway, no.
When did you or one of your friends get a car, and when you got when you had access?
There were
to...
only a couple of fellows in school that had cars. There wasn't this big lineup. There was a
Yeah.
couple teachers that came, and there were some, like Chester Deisher, he lived up near Pricetown. Well, those kids, they had to find their own way there. Then no school brought them. If they wanted to go to school and finish, they had to
I
have
see.
somebody bring them.
But no one drove himself to school. None of the students.
Yeah, Chester Deisher.
Chester Deisher. Okay.
He came. There might have been a few teachers' cars. There was only, I'd say maybe a dozen cars
In
there.
the parking lot.
There wasn't much of a parking lot. It was right there near the school. And I remember the teachers used to go down to the, what did we call it? To smoke. Mr. Nathan, not my grandfather, he didn't smoke, but
So they actually had like a smoking lounge or something?
well, it was down
Down
in
the
the
boiler
basement.
room, probably.
Oh,
It
okay.
wasn't much of a lounge. No. And they'd have playground in the summertime. Because I can remember my grandfather, I used to think I wanted to be a nurse.
Mm-hmm.
And Grandpa Bower bought me a nurse's outfit. And I have a picture somewhere in my pictures of me wearing this nurse's outfit, and I was up at playground. We were pretending somebody was a doctor and somebody was a patient, But
The playground was at the school
at
building.
the school. Mm-hmm.
And it was actually like a organized activity in
Like
the
a-
Oh
summer.
yeah, we had a teacher.
Yeah. They still had, or at least when I was a student, they had that. I did that in elementary and middle school.
Yeah.
Right
Never
behind
experienced that.
where the tennis courts are now, or were. I think they got rid of them, but where the tennis courts were.
Yeah, right.
Mm-hmm.
At the tennis courts. And Gloria Frankhauser was, I think she was there. She was a school playground leader for.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yes, she did. She had that one summer. I think it was when she was, the years after we were out of school.
Mm-hmm.
She would have been in college and maybe in the summertime.
It was
she
her summer
worked there,
job.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I don't know if I've told you before, I was telling Lisa, Mr. Stauffer,
Mm-hmm.
one day he came and he said, I don't know what grade we would have been in, 10th, 11th, 12th grade. He said, wear your old clothing. And I don't know if we did this on a Saturday or if it was during school. I think it was during school days. That he had us wear old clothing, and he had the fellas go down into the pine grove. There was a big pine grove down there. I guess it's not there. Is it still there?
Some
the
of it
pine-
is, yeah.
Is it?
Some of it is.
Well, there was lots of pines there. I mean, they were not that far away from the tennis courts at that time. Well, say from here. Yeah, it was some distance. But anyway, he had the fellas go down there with saws and saw all the limbs off the bottom of the pine trees. And then he had us go down there and drag the limbs out. We pulled them out up into the field there. I don't know what they did with them from there. But I said, can you imagine doing that today?
No.
It'd probably be good for
Yeah.
True.
Actually, you can, because the FFA goes around to the cemeteries and cleans them up, and
Yeah.
Oh,
cuts trees
what?
down.
Who
The
does?
FFA,
future
No,
farmers.
future farmers.
Yeah, but
That's,
then
that's a volunteer.
I
This
was gonna
sounds
say,
Like,
mandatory.
is it mandatory for all the students
Yeah.
to do
I mean,
this?
imagine if somebody would have been hurt.
Yeah,
Oh,
when using a saw.
lawsuit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, well, I guess shop
Well, it was
class.
a
Well,
handsaw.
Yeah.
back then you didn't sue you know. But oh,
What ultimately, so it was just an area for picnicking, or he just wanted the bottom limbs off the trees?
boy, it really made it nice.
You
You
couldn't-
could walk through
You
there.
could walk. There was a
Okay.
path from the school that would take you down and
You couldn't
Down to
hide
the road.
down there then. If you
yeah,
wanted to
you
get out
could
of
go right
class.
Okay.
down to the road.
Down back to Jefferson Street.
Yeah, they
down
said
there.
wait.
Yeah.
Oh, I shouldn't
Yeah.
say these things.
No, that's fine.
No, Wayne Ryder is still living. I won't say anything. Not saying anything. No. You know
What, was
how-
he one to skip class?
Huh?
Was Wayne one to skip class?
No. Oh no, all the girls
Okay.
liked him. He was classes behind me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and another time, they called me out of class one time because the doors in the summertime, if it was warm, the doors were open.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd go home for lunch. I very seldom ate lunch at school. And how I would have loved to eat lunch at school. But
Really?
Oh yes, I would have. But you know.
The food wasn't better at home, you know?
Well,
Just
it
to be with
wasn't
your
different.
friends.
Cheaper.
It was, you know.
Because Nana was an excellent cook, but it's that idea of, know.
I did once in a while, I'd stay at school to eat. And we had good cooks, Mrs. Betty DeTurk's mother, and who was she a DeTurk too? There were so many DeTurks living in Oley at that time. Anyway, the back door was open. I went back after lunch, and my dog must have followed me. So after a while, they called me out of class to come and get my dog. He was up walking around all over the school.
That must have made class interesting.
Checking out the cafeteria.
So I had to go get Rusty and take him
Rusty.
home. Take Rusty home.
Mhm.
Oh. But, isn't it funny? It was very different then.
So what classes did you like the best in high school?
Oh, home ec.
Home ec?
Home ec and art class and music class.
I figured music would be in there somewhere.
Oh yeah, you know, those were the things I got A's in.
Yeah.
Did you play any instruments?
Violin,
Violin?
yeah,
Cool.
yeah, but
and
but
piano.
and piano, violin. And I was just thinking about this the other day, and I don't know. Mr. Beery used to come and teach us at school. He taught me at my home too. But then he came to school. The Beerys lived there in Oley. The houses. But anyway, then later, I think I must have been out of school a few years. Mr. Ryder took over. Mr. Kazalka came from Reading. He taught us for a while. But then he didn't want to come out anymore. And Mr. Ryder, he probably played with the Reading Symphony. Then this was after I was out of school though. And he was killed there in Oley.
Oh.
The Murphy bus, somehow he was waiting for the Murphy bus and a car came along and killed him right up there near Glaze's store at that intersection
Yeah.
there.
around the corner.
I was gonna tell you to look it up because I think that happened after I was out of school.
But was he teaching at the time? And
He was
Going
to
back home.
and he was going home.
yeah. Oh, that's
And
terrible.
he
for-
was waiting
yeah.
waiting for the bus to go back into Reading.
Hmm.
Yeah, we had a Murphy bus. That was pretty good. You know,
Mhm.
you could go into Reading. You could pick up the Murphy bus over there at Stocking's store. You could get this at the store there.
Yeah.
And they'd take you into Stony Creek. And at Stony Creek, you would get another bus. And that would take you into Reading. But,
That's amazing.
but they ran a lot, and it was,
Did you ever ride the trolley?
no, I don't think I did.
Too young to remember, probably.
Yeah.
No,
Is
I
it in the-
remember-
You remember it? Yeah. Didn't it stopped in the early 30s? I think.
Yeah. So if I did, I would have been too young to remember it, but, I mean, the tracks were there, I could,
How old were you when you started going into Reading on the bus?
probably like 12.
And you would go by yourself or with friends or
No,
your
we
parents?
go with friends.
Okay.
Maybe, you know, probably not till I was in my teens.
Mm-hmm.
Probably 13, 14, we'd go in maybe. But during the war, they were short of people working, and one of the men that used to work at the liquor store in Oley, he was from Oley, and he worked up in Fleetwood at the liquor store. Well, he was drafted, and so they asked my dad, would he be willing to work at the liquor store? So my dad used to work at the liquor store and do printing. And yeah, he was always busy doing something. But on a Saturday, he would take the old Ford, and you know you had to have, gas was rationed, so he would go up to Fleetwood, and he'd coast down the hill to Fleetwood. Then when he'd come home, he would go up the
Coast
hill
down to
and he'd
Oley.
coast down to Oley, but
Save
to
gas.
save gas. But on a Saturday, he would take whoever I could find in the neighborhood, some of my girlfriends, and plus maybe my mother and one of her friends. Sometimes there was 3 in the front seat, plus the dog, and maybe 3 or 4 of us girls in the back seat, and we'd go to the movies up in Fleetwood.
Oh, that's fun.
It was only, we'd go to Kutz's and have some ice cream or some snacks, and then we could go to the movies in Fleetwood.
Movie theater was in the fire company then?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It wasn't, it was a flat floor, you know, but, oh, we loved the movies.
And now that you talk about it, I remember going up there with my cousins once or twice.
Up to Fleetwood to the movie? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, they lived in Fleetwood. We went
Oh,
there
okay.
to visit on summer vacation. So
So they still had the theater then. I don't know when it closed. But they used to get the movies, well, they weren't first run, but
Yeah.
they were good they were all the top movies as far as that went. But yeah.
what'd you do during the summers? Did you help with the printing or did you
Work.
have jobs?
Worked, mowed the lawn.
With a push mower.
Oh, my dad got me the neatest push mower though. It was quiet, it had rubber wheels, and cause we have banks in front of my house, and I used to mow them. Oh.
And no gasoline, right? It was a manual push
no.
mower.
You didn't have
Boy,
a
they
goat
ought
for
to go
that.
back to that again today. They go to these electric cars, they ought to get rid of all these mowers that are going
they're
around
so
here.
loud, yeah.
Putting out stuff. It's not just the cars that are putting out. My gosh, when I see people just have small lawns. Anyway, no, I don't know whatever. I think Clarence Beaver got that mower. The Beavers lived next door, Kevin's parents, and they were so good to my parents growing up. You know, when my parents were older, they were so good to my parents.
So when you graduated from high school, what did you do from there?
I went to Reading Business School. You know, they didn't have a business course at Oley.
Yeah.
So I went
That
to
was the
Reading.
McCann School?
No, I went to RBI,
Oh, okay.
Reading Business, and I took the medical
Hmm.
course. And then I worked at St. Joe's Hospital for about 4 or 5 years. And then I got married, and Melvin lived down here in Douglasville, so I went down to Memorial Hospital and got a job there. And just as I went in there for a medical record librarian job, the medical record librarian was leaving.
Ah.
So I was hired that day, right on the spot. So
God's plan.
yeah, it wasn't it though. So then I worked there for another, I don't know how many years, and I even did some of the charts here at home after 1960 when Dave was born. I used to do their charts here at home because they didn't have anybody to do the coding until the two hospitals joined then down there. But you know, it was Memorial Hospital on High Street, and it was on Charlotte Street was
Right.
the other hospital. But when they joined, why, so then I stopped doing it. But then I got a job decorating cakes.
Hmm. That's a
Very
big
well.
jump.
And I did that
Very
for
artistic.
quite a
Big
long
jump.
time.
Yeah.
So that was a fun job.
Yeah.
Did you get to know Dr. Winter at the hospital? He was a radiologist.
Dr. Winter,
Yeah. Fred
No.
Winter. Okay.
I knew Dr. Griffith. He was
Yeah.
the radiologist. The record room was right next to Dr. Griffith's place. And I knew Dr. Ash, Dr. Lynn, there were,
Yeah.
all these doctors are not living anymore,
Mhm.
the ones I knew. I said, now you kind of pick a doctor and you don't know. I said, I used to know who the good ones were and who were the ones that maybe weren't quite
Stay
as
away
good.
from him.
And you know who, you knew who to go to.
Sure.
I don't get that feeling today.
Yeah.
You go to whoever, whatever. And then you don't see the doctor, you see a
Nurse practitioner.
practitioner. Well, it was never such a thing. All the doctors lived on High Street down there, a lot of them. Yeah.
Dr. Winter lives down the Schuylkill River here about 5 miles, or
Dr.
did. He passed away about 5 years ago, but he has something like 200 different rhododendrons on his farm.
Oh,
Oh
wow.
my God.
Yeah, it's a beautiful place. Who was your doctor growing up in Oley?
Dr. Grimm.
Dr. Grimm, of course.
Oh my goodness, he lived, well, next to the fancy, the Strugelbaum, next to the Strugelbaum. He, yeah, oh my goodness. Like I said, I was a sick kid. I had double pneumonia in first grade, and I had pneumonia a couple times.
Would he come treat you at home then? If
Oh,
it was,
sure.
Even
He
though
would,
it was that close?
he would just, I'd see him almost every day. Just, yeah. And if you went to him, he had the medicine right there to give you. You didn't have to go to a drugstore.
Mm-hmm.
Occasionally you had to, maybe, but I don't know. I don't remember.
Did you ever get treated by, like, say, your grandparents or any old people who might have done more, like, folk healing, kind of, like, using an old potato or something like that? Or, you ever hear any stories about
No, I know. No, I don't think anybody in the family.
Well, Nana always gave you mineral oil after you ate popcorn.
Oh,
That's probably the closest thing to that.
Well, you know,
The castor oil. Yeah.
Was it castor oil?
yeah, enemas were the great thing back then.
Uh-huh.
I mean, whenever anything was wrong with you, Dr. Grimm would say, give her an enema. You know, I mean, that was the first thing that,
That was
you know,
Gotta be
The
thankful
popular
that's
thing.
one change.
Yeah.
isn't
That
that
was the
funny?
popular.
But, well, I don't know. Maybe it helped, I don't know. But anyway, yeah. And the mineral oil, she'd always, if we ate too much popcorn, if we ate popcorn, it didn't matter if it was too much or whatever.
That was
Hair
part of the
oil.
required.
But I used to like the mineral oil, so it didn't
Ah,
bother me
yeah.
one bit, I liked that. But, no, in third grade was when I got the mace toy. I had, I don't know, one day my mother and I were making fruit cup, and I just said I felt so sick. And she took me to the doctor, and Dr. Grimm, and he said, you have to take her to the, have Dr. Landis come out and see her. Dr. Landis was in Reading. He said she has an abscess in her ear. So he came out, and I remember I sat on my dad's lap, and he lanced that abscess. And then they had a nurse come in, a private duty nurse came in for 1 or 2 nights, and she used to put wicks in my ear to get this, to get the abscess out so that it wouldn't drain. But it didn't work. It didn't work. Like I said, if there would have been penicillin, I would have been given penicillin, and that would have been it. But it didn't drain, so I ended up in the hospital with a mastoid operation. And like I said, back then it was a serious thing. A lot of people died from it.
Yeah, still serious.
But, so I'm missing part of the bone behind my ear. And I missed a lot of school. A lot of school. Between my pneumonia and in second grade I missed a lot because I was always having colds and stuff. I don't know.
So what are some of the other favorite memories of growing up in Oley? Some of the recreational things you did, or?
Well, I liked it because I was in the orchestra and I loved that. And there were always a lot of a lot of concerts and stuff. I remember we were giving the one concert, this was in April, and then they said that President Roosevelt died. That was the day of the concert. Would that be right? I think it was.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But we still had the concert that night. But, and the orchestra went to Johnstown. We stayed overnight there one year. I know my dad took some pictures. I think the, what would it have been, the Legion that would have sent us, the American Legion, I don't know. They sponsored this trip to Johnstown.
Could be, yeah.
And I know we played.
The Legion had its own band at one time, in Oley.
Yeah. We played in Pottstown. So I think, I love the musical events, and I was in plays and things, and we did the Mikado and the Pirates of Penzance when I was in school. And I sang a lot, so I'm just thinking, I think being close to the playground, and I had friends there in Oley, Joyce Ryder and Betty D. Turk and Shirley Klein. We were all about a year apart from each other, but we'd get together and we'd go sledding down behind Stocking's store in the wintertime. would come down the school hill. And you could go down in the back. But then you had a long walk back up up the hill.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
That's a good
yeah.
sledding hill, though.
You go down to the pond swimming during the summer down there.
We used to walk down into the meadow. They'd be full of blue bottles.
I picked up
Blue bottles.
Full of blue bottles down, well, the meadow's still there, I think.
What are blue bottles?
It's a plant. that-
Grape hyacinths.
Oh, grape
Grape
hyacinths.
hyacinths.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
We
blue
called them
bottles.
blue bottles.
Okay,
Oh, it was
They're
just
pretty, yeah.
full of them.
in the spring, yeah.
But we'd go down there, and we'd go down to that creek that's not too far from the Turk house.
Yeah,
that
right there,
creek. We'd go down there,
Swim there.
and well, the cows were in the same water and stuff, but
Yeah.
we just
Don't
went-
worry about
We
it.
just waded in the water. We didn't swim, but yeah, you did that.
You want to talk about the swimming up at Landis Store?
Oh,
The
nature.
swimming pool?
Well, that was Nature Friends.
Yeah.
It really was after I was out of school, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't. Because in our 11th grade, the Reverend Lengel, they were building his parsonage in Pleasantville, which is there today.
And he was the Loboxville preacher, or where?
Loboxville and Hill Church.
And Hill Church.
Hmm. Yeah. And I don't remember.
They were building his parsonage
Yeah.
and the Landis store.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so while they were building that, his family moved up to Landis Store near some orchards
Mhm.
and lived there for the summer. But, well, they were there part of the winter time too, because the bus would go up past Willie Rocker's place. And anyway, they lived up there in the summertime, and somehow they must have found out about Nature Friends, a place to go swimming. So I didn't go swimming there till after I was out of school, but Eunice and her friends found this place. And so after we were out of school, Eunice was telling me about this place, and it was Nature Friends. And it was owned by, they were Germans and they were Jewish. And what's there now, Lisa? What?
Oh, I think
District-
it's like a township
Yeah, the
building.
District Township Park, I think, is
Yes.
where District Township Park.
There's a
Oh,
park
okay.
and like an administration type.
But that used to just be a camp. I mean, they always said we could come down there if we wanted for the day or something, but, and I just remember them having the celebration the day that the Rosenbergs were executed. The German spies,
Mhm.
the Julius and, yeah, the Rosenbergs.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, the United States executed them,
Mm-hmm.
and they were very thankful that happened. I don't know if they had a fireworks thing that night, but
Were you there for the
No.
celebration, or you just heard about it?
no, I just heard about it. No, we were there. We went swimming there. They used to, maybe they had somebody at the road that would maybe charge, I don't know, give you a ticket for the day or something. And
There was a big swimming pool.
yeah, it was just ground bottom,
Yeah.
and it was really cold water.
Mhm.
I remember.
Fresh out of the spring.
But I never saw anybody naked there,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, they were.
but
Oh, thank you.
they were supposedly,
Thank you, Lisa.
oh, yeah. But it's there today,
Yeah.
but it's a different thing entirely.
Since we last talked, was telling my mom that story, and she said she knows someone who still lives up in Pike Township who was raised in that colony.
How about that?
So I was thinking about trying to ask her, get some more background on it, some history on.
So they knew about it.
Yeah, it's no. I mean, she had heard of it before,
Uh-huh.
so.
Yeah, we would drive up there in the summertime, and never really, thank you, I never really enjoyed swimming there much because I didn't like that.
The ground, the mud or whatever.
Yeah.
Condensation.
You could get cooled off, and it was nice. They were very nice people. They'd come down. They always had white robes on when they came down. So, but they were very friendly.
They never came down. I mean, I don't know if
No.
they would come to Oley, but they never came into town or anything.
I don't think so. I don't think so. Like I said, never heard of the place until Eunice and her family had lived up there, and they found out, and I don't know how they found out about it, to tell you the truth. I should ask Eunice. Maybe she'd remember.
Is
I
she
don't-
still with us, Eunice?
She's still living. She's in a nursing home in Boston.
Oh wow. Okay.
But
That should be too far away.
yeah,
maybe.
she's Gloria and Eunice and I were good friends.
And that was Gloria, by the way.
Was it Gloria?
Yes.
Oh,
Like she said,
Checking in on you.
Yeah, maybe we'll interview her sometime if
Yeah.
she would be willing.
Well,
think
maybe
she-
she would.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah.
She kind of had a little different life. She lived, like I said, it wasn't too far from, who else lived over there? James Levin and the Von Dorans. Craig Von Doran, I guess, I don't know. Do you know Craig Von?
Know of him.
He's
I
a
don't know.
racer.
Yeah, this is
Yeah.
up kind of the other end of Main Street going towards Pricetown or near
He's
His
back
Oley
Farms
Furnace.
up there.
back
There's a
near
horse
Oley
farm.
Furnace.
Yeah.
Okay,
That's where-
Peggy lived there, and then you went a little further to the next road. I'm not exactly sure what that road was called.
Stitzer Road.
Stitzer Road.
Yeah.
Maybe it was part of Stitzer Road.
And that's where
Okay.
Gloria lived.
That Gloria, yeah, with her mother and her stepfather and her grandfather.
Hmm.
They all lived there. And,
Well, you've been talking for over an hour. We don't
Yeah.
want to tax you here. But
Yeah.
it's enough.
If you have anything else you want to say, or
I wouldn't know what else.
well, I have one last question. I guess now your dad spoke Pennsylvania Dutch. You said he named the
Strugelbank.
And did your mom speak Pennsylvania Dutch too?
Only she went to all the versamlings and everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
Later in life.
Oh yeah, she liked all that stuff. She was into history. She knew everybody in Oley. She knew all the background. She has the history of everybody just about that lived in Oley. The Kimes, we're related to the Kimes.
Mm-hmm.
We're related just to the Turks, everybody.
So she was really into genealogy and such.
Oh yeah.
But they didn't teach you Pennsylvania Dutch growing up.
No, not really. I never.
You just knew like select words, right?
bad
Mhm.
words.
Sure. Yeah, the ones. Yeah.
Bad words.
that's why I tell people I can swear in it. Does that count?
Half a decade to know better.
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't
And
remember.
and just like common words too, like fress and bruts and
Oh yeah. Brutz is crying and
don't be dopic or
Doppik.
Yeah, dopey,
You know what
yeah.
Doppik is.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
and shushlik.
Shushlik.
Especially- Yeah.